It's great to
Okay.
meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out
You
today. I
too.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, you bet. So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this to get get everything going in the right direction. Six
Okay.
years ago, the pandemic happened, changed all of our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Wow, that's a
Yes,
loaded
it
question.
is.
Um, I think for me, and it actually relates kind of to uh, why I ended up writing this book. The pandemic completely, I mean, it was ultimately my fault, but blew up my business plan
Yeah.
that I was running at the time, and so it caused me to completely reevaluate things, which is not a bad thing. It was just a really rough rough time. So but it ultimately ended up being a good thing coming out of it. But it was yeah, it was. I mean, it was such a weird. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's for me looking back on it, it's almost like it was not real, like it was a
Yeah.
dream or something.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly was. And I remember because my day job is as an IT technician for a school district, so we were essential.
Okay,
And at that point, it was about cleaning up devices and getting things kind of groomed for going home. But on a
right.
personal level, I was really more into the jazz radio world, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I had a son who was on the spectrum that loved school. He
Yeah,
loved baseball. Everything was getting canceled. So I'm like, I'm just going to amp my interviews up and to be able to talk to musicians during that time. Their
oh yeah,
voices, even in that time, apparel was triumphant. Yet
yeah,
sad because all the gigs were gone. But anyways, yeah, it's like at that point you had to figure out what am I going to do? How am I going to use this energy
yeah.
for positivity because it had a monopoly on us. There was no way out of it.
Well, that was what was really, for me anyway, a bright spot of the pandemic was that it. We all probably knew this anyway, but it definitely proved to the rest of the world that you can't kill creativity.
Right.
Creativity is going to find a way to, you know what I mean? Like I was so impressed with all the different people doing videos and creating things, and I mean, there were different countries where. Because people couldn't go out in the streets, they'd hang out their windows and sing songs together. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
mind-boggling. It was amazing.
Yeah, there was a dude in Portugal I was interviewing, I believe, and it got really,
Oh
really
wow!
loud. You heard pots and pans and all this, and he was like, "Sorry, all the nurses and doctors are getting ready to go into the hospital." I said, "Don't
Wow!
apologize. Put your phone out there. I want to
No
get
kidding. Let me see. Let me see.
Are you kidding? I want to get this sound." So all of
That's
those
amazing.
willful distractions were very, very welcome because it was
That's
very
awesome.
emblematic of what we were living through. Um,
Agreed.
so before we get into the book, I want
Yep.
to know this. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds. It's career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize your work existence to make sense to their brains?
I might have to go ask my dog. I'm not somebody who likes these kind of labels, but my brain is, for lack of a better way to describe it, ADHD or ADD or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
The latest, um, and that my creativity keeps me sane. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah,
So I do. That's why my business has always been, when people ask me what I do, marketing, because it's a giant umbrella, right? So
uh-huh.
so one day I'm doing video editing, and the next day I'm helping somebody with their YouTube channel. Next day I'm doing voiceover work. I'm doing video editing or graphic design or developing somebody's logo that's going to be on a billboard. It kind of keeps me sane. So
Yeah.
that's the way
Jack
that's
of
kind of what I do for a living.
Jack of all marketing trades. So
Yeah.
what when you were a kid sitting in that classroom, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream gig?
It was always in the creative space without knowing that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where, you know, I, I'm pausing because it's other things are coming to me, but
Yeah.
I've always been a musician of some sort. So singing has always been one of them. There was a time where I thought acting, but it was really just the creative space.
Yeah.
And I've always been involved in wanting to make things look cooler or unique or interesting. I don't think I had the wherewithal back then to know that you can make a living doing that. It was just
Yeah.
what I was always drawn to doing something different.
Yeah. So as a music guy, what was your first concert? What was the first one that blew you away?
Well, the first concert was it was a pretty good one for a first one. I think I was 15, uh, and it was Van Halen.
Wow.
Yeah, with BTO opened up for me. You remember them?
I do remember
Boston
them.
Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys. So they opened up for them, and yeah, it was their last tour together
Wow.
with David Lee Roth. So it was that was my first one. So
Wow.
I ended up seeing Van Halen, probably 8 times in my life, uh, but yeah, that they, I mean, just the pageantry, and of course, David Lee Roth was, such an interesting guy as a frontman. I mean, I remember being close to the stage, and he was jumping around with ninja knives and
Uh-huh.
swords and all this kind of stuff. So it was pretty, yeah. I would say the first one also blew me away.
I remember when I was in, I think, early college, late high school, a friend of mine said, you have to go with me to see David Lee Roth. He's on a solo tour. And
Yeah.
at one point he came out on easily a 200-foot like inflatable microphone, and he's riding it through the crowd. And it's just like, dude, he was just gonzo. I heard him in,
I don't think I ever heard of that one. That's a
oh
great
my
one.
God. I was like, what is going on? But I remember when he got out of being a rock star, he became a paramedic in New
He
York
did.
City.
He did.
I
Yep.
mean,
I
there was
remember that.
all of these things that he was doing. And when you listen to him, it's like everything is on hyper speed. Like
Oh,
Chewbacca's screaming over his shoulder, the Millennium Falcon's going at full speed, but he is bright. He is unbelievably brilliant.
yeah, he is a, I mean, I've always, even when he was, I don't know where he's at now, but as far as like his headspace, but, even when I've heard him and he's, in my opinion, it's like, okay, that guy's lost his freaking mind. Even when he did that, you can still hear the genius in there.
Yeah,
His thinking was, I mean, I think his dad was like a surgeon or something like that. So
yeah.
he came from a pretty good line of thinkers, and he definitely had that.
Absolutely. So I got to ask, being a part of the Raiders world and talking to Al Davis and all of that, I don't know if you've seen this viral clip, but there was a clip that there was a broadcaster, and I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Jim Nance or who it was, but Snoop Dogg used to hang out in front of the Oakland Stadium, and he would just talk. And I remember this broadcaster came up to him and said, What are you doing?" He was like, "I want to be in there one day. I want to be the guy. I want to do it." So he
What
was
time frame was this,
this
when he
he
was a
was like
kid, or?
he was a teenager.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And he
Yeah.
was just out there with his car that he'd scrapped together money to get. And he's like, I just want to be big time. I have big dreams. So we brought him in. He met Al Davis, met all these guys. And years later, the broadcaster's walking on the front court at a Lakers game. And Snoop stands up and looks at him. And he was like, I didn't even think you were going to acknowledge me. He was like, you were the beginning of it. So I think about
Wow.
being around those kinds of people. How did you get into the inner fold of the Raiders and run into Al Davis? How did that happen?
That's really interesting because for some reason, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, like with jazz and stuff, but for some reason, most of the people around me are not football fans. My
Right.
kids grew up not being interested in the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of people I just run into and they freak out. Oh my God, you did that. And oh my,
Right.
but not the people right around me. So
I get
I don't
it.
get to talk about this very often. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, this kind of blows people's minds when I say this, when they ask me how I got, because I ended up doing the very first Raiders website. It was the year as they were moving back from LA to Oakland again.
Gotcha.
So so uh, now this, make sure everybody takes note on how devious this plan was. You ready?
Yeah.
I called them.
How dare
No
you?
one had done that. And so when I called them, of course they didn't know what the heck I was talking about. But the marketing guy, he everybody back then had these nebulous titles. One of them was, I can't remember. They were just nebulous. They didn't mean anything. But the one that they always filtered, if they didn't understand something, technology or whatever, it would go to a guy named Morris Bradshaw,
Yeah.
who was a former player for the Raiders, ended up being a lifelong friend of mine. Unfortunately, he just passed about a year ago, a little
Yeah.
over a year ago. But he answered the phone, and I kind of gave him I didn't even know what I was talking about. I'm like, you guys should have a website, and he goes, "What's that?" And I ended up telling him, I think about the Netscape IPO, and that he
Wow.
understood. and I
Yeah.
explained how much they were charging at the time to advertise on their homepage on
Uh-huh.
Netscape.com. And because I thought I lost him, he was not interested. As soon as I told him that dollar amount, he goes, "What are you doing Tuesday?" So that's how I got in.
That's awesome.
But it was really, I mean, it was, I've been a lifelong Raiders fan,
Yeah.
so that's why I called them. And so it was, I'm I'm 5'9",
Yeah.
so I was never going to be a player.
Sure. Sure.
So for me to be able to spend like over 5 years traveling with the team at every home game, away game, ate with the team, flew with the team, hung out at the facilities. I mean, it was a dream,
Wow.
so that's how I ended up getting on the inside.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah, never would have predicted that.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. Take me back to your childhood. What were the seeds that were planted, the creativity seeds, going for the big brass ring, all of these things that have become your career? How did this begin?
Um, I think my dad was a very uh he was somebody who didn't want to um settle. So looking back on it now as an older guy, looking back on it, he was constantly trying to figure things out, and that's kind of looking back, that's what I've done too.
Yeah.
So basically, he wasn't somebody who just accepted things as they were and do went to work, came home, went to work, came home, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think I picked that up from there. My grandfather was also self-employed at one point, so I think that's where the genes came from. And I've always, like I said, I've always been interested in music and art of some kind, that kind of thing, the creative space. So just keeping an eye open for that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I've met people that their brain just doesn't work that way. And for me, I'm always looking to, ooh, that's kind of cool. What if I
Yeah.
do this? So I think tinkering is one way to put it.
So who's been your hero, your inspirational force that's allowed you to navigate your life?
I'm not a hero guy necessarily. I'm not a follower. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
But so I would say just people who have done things their own way. Um, and it's not necessarily like they're bucking the system, but people who and I really hate using the out of the box thinking terminology because it's
Yeah.
so overdone, but it is true. People who think differently. They're not following the pattern. They're not doing what everybody else does. So I think anybody, and I mean, go all the way to the high level, like people like Steve Jobs. I grew up in the Bay Area, around him and what he's done or he did. So those kind of things were always, I mean, Walt Disney type people, people who just saw things a little differently, didn't listen to everybody telling them how they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that goes for musicians and actors and writers and, people. So anybody who didn't take no for an answer, when they believed in something, they went for it and whatever comes, whatever may, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think those are the type of people I was
Yeah.
attracted to.
It's interesting. I went to Disney a few years ago, and it's always so weird for me to think that he was from Kansas City. Like I
I know.
saw his
Yeah.
desk, and he was from Marceline. And I have a good friend of mine that his parents and family grew up in Marceline, and you see where it went. And we used to have this thing called Electric Park in Kansas City, and there was
Mm.
all these lights and fountains and all this stuff. And that was what Walt used to go to as a kid, and that was the template, that was the foundation before he went
Wow.
to California. And I just think about because we're always getting pigeonholed as this cow town in the middle of the country, and
Yeah.
what do you guys do there, and all of that. And I think one of the biggest entertainment exports of all time came from this area and kind of used it as a template. It's wild to think. And everybody told him that, you can't do this.
Yes.
Who's going to look at a
Did
mouse?
you ever read his the biography on him? It was like this thick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
remember
wild.
some parts of that. I don't remember details, but yeah, I remember that. Wow.
Yeah, it's totally
Pretty
wild.
amazing.
So I'm curious. I think we're from the same generation, Gen Xers, and
Yeah.
I paint. This is one of my originals. I get into the creative world. I've
Wow.
done web stuff.
Beautiful.
So thank you. And I've done this stuff for a while, and I think now
Is that the
we,
US, by the way?
yeah, I just had an extra piece of canvas and I was like, I haven't painted the United States of America. Let's see what we can do. And it just turned
See
into
that
that.
right there, your that way of thinking is exactly what I was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Just whimsically, just get
And
in
it's nothing
there.
against everybody, but some people don't think that way.
No, no, exactly. And it's just like it's just a breeding ground for what can happen, you know? But the interesting thing is that as kids, we had rotary phones, and then we watched the Jetsons, and we were like, wow, what if we could see somebody on a little device? And we've gotten to this place where now AI is a part of our worlds. Do you worry about AI getting into this realm of creativity and what we're doing and how we're living?
Um, I I'm not a worrier, so I don't worry about it. Am I concerned or trepidatious about what's going to happen? I mean, yeah, but I think, like I had mentioned before, I think creativity um, it reigns supreme. So even if people are using AI for creative things, they're never going to think like a creative person thinks. I mean, a
Yeah.
creative person, there may be things that people will be creating in 5 years that they can't even conceive of now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even when somebody looks at something, this is what you do with a paintbrush and paint, blah blah, they're going to turn it into a spaceship or something.
Yeah.
It's going to come out. Creativity is going to come out no matter what. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So do you ever think about retirement? What's the idea of the word retirement mean to you?
Doesn't mean anything. I
Yeah.
can't picture it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I may try and I think I've always been trying to get myself to a financial place where I don't have to worry about it.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what retirement means to me. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm never going to stop.
Yeah. So speaking of Disney and Steve Jobs and these kind of trendsetters that did their own thing, is
Yeah.
there anybody alive on the planet right now that you would like to have a lunch with, talk to, and get into their brain a little bit?
Uh, you know, a lot of the people that I used to say are no longer with us, but I think the one that is Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
He's one that he's not just a funny guy. His creativity is unstoppable.
It really is. And I've thought about him lately, like all of those movies growing up that were absolutely iconic, from
Oh,
Blazing Saddles to Spaceballs to all that stuff. And I've wondered what he's been doing lately.
oh, he's always doing. I mean, I don't know if you did you see the brand new documentary on him?
I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, I think it's on HBO, I think.
Okay.
It's like the 99-year-old man because he's about to be
Yeah.
100. And there was something in there I had remembered seeing or hearing about it before, but it kind of like flooded back. Mel Brooks knew that everybody with his name coming first, everybody would assume it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't take it seriously. So he started Brooks Films, which was his production company, and he wanted to do things that were a little more heady, a little
Yeah.
more dramatic or serious. So one of his first was, do you remember The Elephant Man?
Oh, yeah. With David
That was
Lynch.
that was Mel Brooks.
Wow.
Yep, he's the one that was. I mean, he produced it,
Yeah.
so
And
he didn't direct it, but he produced it.
but it was even weird to me to think that David Lynch did that whenever I really
I
got into the
know.
Twin
That reminded
Peaks.
me too. I forgot all about it. Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
talk
that kind of
about, I mean,
started his career.
that was it. Yeah. And then he went to Dune and then he did Eraserhead, all of
Oh,
that stuff
well,
took
he had
off.
done in that, and it's only I only remember it because I just watched that documentary. But they interviewed him on it, and he had done Eraserhead, and I guess Mel Brooks asked to screen it by himself in a theater by himself, and David Lynch stood up and said, "Yeah, he's going to watch that, and I'm not going to get this gig." So apparently, he watched Eraserhead and saw the brilliance, came out
Yeah.
and said, "I want you to do it." And,
And
and
that
so
was it.
he literally said, "Mel Brooks created my career. He launched it."
Wow, I had no idea. I remember there for a while, I really got into my Lynch phase with Twin Peaks and all of that. He used
Oh
to have
yeah.
a contest where there was like this, like Shoney's or some kind of burger joint that was on Sunset Boulevard, and
Huh.
you could like enter a contest and like sit down and smoke cigarettes and have coffee and eat burgers with David
Wow.
Lynch. And I was like, how crazy
See,
would that
that's
be?
the outside of the box kind of thinking that I just love because you hear something like that and you go, "Of course, why doesn't everybody do it?" But they don't.
No, they don't. They don't. I remember in my early 20s when we used to sit around and drink gallons of coffee. we had this idea that we were going to drive to Cape Cod. We were going to go to the front doorstep of Kurt Vonnegut's house, and we were going to have a carton of Pall Malls and a whole tin of coffee, and we were going to have 5 questions for him. And we
Oh
were just going
man,
to
he's
see if he
somebody who would, if he was there, he was going to answer him.
that's it. He was either going to be intrigued and let us in, or he was going to slam the door. But one way or another, we were going to have a good Vonnegut story.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So what happened?
We didn't do it. We sat around.
Oh,
So we just sat around and we were like, it was a pipe dream. But we have the questions and they're written down somewhere. We refined it down and it would have been great. So, but
that's one thing that I always kind of prided myself on, and I think it's like a muscle. You have to work at it to make it part of you. And I'm someone who believes that when we're if we're on that proverbial deathbed, let's say, that scene, you the only thing left are going to be memories that you created,
yep,
and relationships, those two
absolutely.
things. So every chance I had to make a memory, as long as it wasn't super dangerous or super illegal,
Sure.
it was I always did it. It's just
That's
a
it.
muscle.
Speaking of that being on your deathbed, I remember the morning after Vonnegut passed, and I always have to have sound in rooms. So I had NPR playing,
Mm.
and I was getting ready to make coffee, and I just stopped because they said in all of his atheism, the only reason why he would ever believe there was a God is because there was music in the world. And I thought it was one of the coolest
That is a cool.
phrases.
I don't know if I ever heard that one, and
Yeah,
I like Vonnegut, so I'm surprised I don't remember that. Wow,
yeah,
that's a good one.
that
That's a
was
good
it.
one.
That was a perfect capper. So let me ask you this. In our lives, there's these random acts of kindness that can happen that can change the
Mhm.
trajectory of what we do. What's one
Yeah.
of the nicest things that somebody's ever done for you
Done for me.
that maybe changed you or changed your
Yeah.
path?
Um, I don't have a super profound one off the top of my head, but the thing that comes to mind right away was I was uh, I was in LA. I'm from the Bay Area, Northern California, and uh, I my parents had gotten divorced, and they kind of were doing their own thing, kind of a thing, and I didn't feel very uh, well protected or well looked after, kind of a thing. So I
Yeah.
really didn't know what the heck I was going to do. I did know that I wanted to do something in entertainment, and so I literally just drove south, and I had like $30 in my pocket, which back then, few tanks of gas.
Yeah.
But so I ended up doing some acting, real low level stuff, and I did some singing, and and I'll never forget there was a night that I was at. I mean, probably most people have heard of the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Big Mecca, Robin Williams, and people like that came out of there, and so they had, or they still do. There was this little. It's like a mini version of their big room, that they do shows in, and it's called the Belly Room.
Yeah.
And the history of it, funny enough, real quick, was that that's where female comics were allowed to play. They weren't allowed to perform in the big room
Wow.
back in the old days, which is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was that room Wednesday nights would do a singers showcase. And so it was way before karaoke. Okay, this is in the 80s, late 80s, and it was before karaoke. So there was a place called the Singers Store that had these racks, wooden racks, I'll never forget, in the valley, racks of just these little cassette tapes. And it would be bands that would record these popular songs, and you would buy it, and there was no words anywhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You had to figure out the lyrics on your own. They didn't come with lyrics. And so but we would practice, and once a week we'd be able to go and usually have one song to sing. And so it was a group of us that would do that. And so what was kind of cool, and I am getting to my point,
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
what was kind of cool is that when we would get up on stage and sing, and it was just this little teeny stage, we'd hand the cassette to, a cassette guy, and he would press play. That was his job. And so
Yeah.
we would look out. It turns out that celebrities at the time, and maybe they still do, once they saw a show in the bigger room, they
Yeah.
would go upstairs to this little belly room so that they were kind of left alone. They
Yeah.
weren't hounded by people. So celebrities would walk in. It was just incredible. So it took a lot to be up there singing, in the middle of singing, and look across and see people, you know. So that I got a compliment from from Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and Papas,
Yeah.
and she was there trying to help some young guy that she was dating, I think,
Yeah.
and somebody she was trying to get singing. But I ended up I did this song, can't remember what it was, did the song, and she gave me a compliment, and that was the first thing that came to mind
Wow.
when you asked me that.
That's wonderful. I can't believe Mitzi Shore for being a force that she
Yes.
would allow women to be on the side.
Well, I mean, her husband was the one that founded the thing. And I
Gotcha.
don't know, I mean, who knows, I mean, she would not do that, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it might have been right at the beginning or
Could have
something.
been. Yeah.
Who
Because
knows?
I
And
know
I,
that.
and I heard it third, fourth, fifth hand, so who knows how
Yeah.
accurate that is. But
Yeah. I interviewed a dude about a month ago that did the books for them. He was an accountant and he had to
wow.
fix things. And he was just like, dude, it was something I can't even imagine how, because he had to come in and unravel all this
Oh,
stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that would
I
have
can
been
only imagine.
nuts.
Well, I remember, ironically enough, I remember because I would go there every Wednesday, I would go there and there was this guy, Andy, who was the doorman. And
Yeah.
I would see him and, hey, Andy, how's it going? And hey, Rick. And I head into go upstairs to the belly room. Years later, I had taken my first wife, I had taken her to one or two of the shows. And so years later, she was watching TV and she goes, come here for a second. I walked in. She goes, isn't that Andy the doorman? It was Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh no,
A
that's
lot of
wild.
comedians, I think even now they take little part-time jobs as the doorman so they can be in there.
I heard Rogan say that on his podcast one time because
Oh,
they're pals and they're thick as
yeah.
thieves now. And
Oh,
he was
yeah.
like, that's how he remembered him and they would
There's
help
even a
each other.
podcast I think called Doorman, and it's
That's
about
wild.
that. And
I,
it records at the Comedy Store.
that's so cool, man. I have to look
Yeah.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you were to, if they were going to make, let's say, an hour biopic on your life, all of the things that you've done and
Why?
accomplished, and just because you're awesome, who's going to direct it? Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to handpick right now that would document it the right way?
Hmm. Wow, man. Yeah, you're asking me some pretty good questions, I got to tell you. Ones that are making me go, "Oh crap, I better think of something good." Oh man. So basically, essentially, who are some of my favorite directors right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could even pull a ghost out if we need to, but who would be ideal that would capture your essence the way you would want it seen cinematically, story-wise, the whole thing?
Wow. I love that space, directors and filmmakers and things like that. So my mind is like going, there's just too many. I mean, I probably my just to rely on something I already said. Mel Brooks is one of them. I don't think he
Yeah,
would ever do that, but I would say uh, Reiner, the
yeah,
recent passing Reiner.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Rob Reiner was a phenomenal filmmaker and so diverse.
I still
Do
can't
anything.
believe he's gone, man.
I know.
I relied on all of those tweets when Trump was in the
Oh,
first time. He pulled me out
seriously.
so much. It's just,
Oh,
it's unreal. So,
we could do a whole podcast on
oh
that.
my God, it's just, it's wild. So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. When you look back in the rearview mirror of your life, of all of the things that you've done that's happened to you, what are you the
Mhm.
happiest about?
Um, that I never settled.
Yeah,
I decided years ago that I was unemployable because I mean, if I see something, I try to make it better.
yeah,
I see around it. I see, like I said, it's that creative brain it's that muscle. So you are constantly doing that. I easily could have gotten it beaten out of me when I was younger if I'd have settled like that.
yeah,
If I'd taken some sales job and stayed there and fed the kids and everything.
yeah.
It was rough having children and a family and being self-employed, but that's probably what I'm most proud of is I didn't settle. I'm still to this day constantly coming up with ideas and trying to work it around and see if this one works and should I spend time on this one? So that's probably what I'm most proud of.
So I'm going to dig a little deeper into that question. Everyone has a
Yeah.
perception of you, family,
Do I
friends.
need to lay down on a couch?
This is the therapy part of it. You too.
Okay.
At family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in different capacities. The Venn
Yeah.
diagram bleeds into itself, but ultimately you're the one with the marionette strings.
Mhm.
What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I actually have a tattoo of this on myself. My I have like this little thing that it's just for myself. Balance and perspective.
Yeah,
That's what I strive for, is the
yeah,
balance of not going too far one way or another, not for very long anyway. And the perspective part is just making sure I'm seeing things as they really are, not just how I would like them to be or how
yeah,
I think they are.
yeah.
So I think that's, does that answer your question
That
though?
100%. And
Okay.
sometimes it feels like it needs to be a dissertation, but the simplicity of this answer is the beauty of it. So are you a Libra? Because I understand the balance.
No,
I'm a Libra. Okay. All
no,
right.
nope. Taurus.
Okay. All right. So I totally get it. So I want to dig into your book a little bit, The Uncomfortable Comfort Zone. Talk to me about the book.
Oh, I forgot about that. I thought maybe you did.
No, no, no.
Well, now that you know my history, it's much easier to understand that I didn't. I mean, I do write. I've been writing for many, my whole life, but I've never really had a burning desire to do the typical self-help book. Um, I'm not somebody's guru. Don't want to be. I don't follow every single word I say, and in fact, so I'll get to it. I This idea for this book has been in the back of this weird brain for for decades,
Yeah.
and it was a situation that I found myself in, and I called it my uncomfortable comfort zone. So it wasn't something that I read or wanted to make sure everybody else knew. And as I said before, I do marketing, so I over the years have worked with many other solopreneurs or solo business owners, small business owners, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And over the years, started to see that I wasn't the only one finding myself in that position, just with different names. So what, in a nutshell, what I found, or what I called the uncomfortable comfort zone, was kind of like, if you picture someone doing fingers in their ears, la 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 la. I think we all, most of us,
Uh-huh.
find ourselves in that position
Uh-huh.
one way or another at some point or another, some longer than others. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I didn't have any designs on writing a book about this. Like I said, it's just that over the years, talking with people, I found that the awareness was a big part of someone, kind of getting out of that, la 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 la, wait, what? That kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So that's where the idea for the book came from. And it's a very small book. It's 49 pages, 6 by 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nicely spaced. I purposefully edited it and re-edited it and re-edited it so that it's not about me. I mean, the closest I get is by me saying, "Hey, I get it.
Right.
I've been there. I've dealt with this too."
Yep.
That's as close as I get. Why do you need, to be honest with you, to go deeper, like you said, um, I didn't want to give anyone an excuse like what I would use as an excuse. If
Uh-huh.
someone reads a book and they're a truck driving company, a small one, and they're reading this book about a guy who does advertising and design, they're going to go, that has nothing to do with me, and throw it away. I didn't want to
Yeah.
give them that excuse.
Yeah.
So the
Sure.
book is not specific to any one industry. I mean, I touch a little bit on some, but mostly it's just the chapters, and it's not a book you need to read from page one all the way to the end.
Sure.
So the chapters are more about situations, and it's kind of like, I don't know about you, but this is where I've found myself
Sure.
before, and I don't know about you, but a couple of the guys that have been my clients have dealt with this type of thing. So that's the cadence of the book. It's
I get it.
it's much more casual. I don't tell anybody what to do. I'm not specific. There's no worksheets. You know, um, During a podcast recently, I came up with, because I'm a marketing guy, so I'm king of analogies, right? And
Yeah.
so I came up with this analogy, ironically enough, right out of my rear end, and I actually really like it. So what I told, because this guy said, well, what do people get out of it? And I go, well, because it sounded too nebulous to say, well, you just read it and see if you recognize yourself in it.
Yeah.
So what I came up with on the fly was, I said, well, it's kind of like when you step in dog crap
Yep. Yep.
and somebody points it out or you smell it. You're not going to just keep walking. You're going to stop and deal with it. You're going to
Uh-huh.
look down. You're going to, whatever you're going to do, clean it up, limp over to the side and wash it off. take your shoes off, whatever you're going to do, it's hard to ignore it. And that's what the whole purpose of the book was, to kind of jolt you out of whatever zone you're in, the uncomfortable comfort zone, or whatever you call it,
I
so
love it.
that's
So
it.
if anybody wants to get a copy, delve into your world further, where do they go?
That they can get the book Uncomfortable Comfort Zone of course on Amazon. There's also an audiobook on Audible, which is also Amazon. If somebody wants to dig further or reach out to me, I have a one-pager website that just gives basic info. I think I have the first chapter on there, both to read or listen to, either way. And it's at, you can get there by going uncomfortablecomfortzone.com, but that's way too long. So they can also do the initials, uczbook.com.
I love it.
We'll get you there.
This is going to click out real quick. This has been an absolute joy, man. Thank you so much
Oh,
for taking
you
a minute
too.
out.
Much different than I expected.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Thank you, man. And hopefully we can do round 2 down the road. I would love to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, anytime. I had a great time. Thanks a lot.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Okay, see you.